Juventus and Fiorentina roll. Roma and Lazio struggle out of the gate. And Serie A is back. What's up and welcome to the Calcio Cafe. I'm your friend D'Amico, and today we have a special guest right over here. His name is Luca Toni. He's my roommate. He'll probably be joining us this week to talk some Serie A action, as Serie A is back this week. It's great to have Serie A back after a summer of transfer rumors. It's great to see some action back on the pitch, and this week didn't disappoint. This week's game started with tributes to Carlo Mazzone, who was an Italian soccer player, Italian coach that coached throughout Serie A. He was best known for coaching players like Baggio, players like Pirlo, giving Totti his debut, as well as he's probably best known for when Roberto Baggio scored the tying goal in Brescia versus Atalanta, and he came sprinting down the sideline to talk back to the Atalanta ultras that were chirping him all game. One of the best moments in Serie A. So the Calcio community will definitely be missing him. To start, we had Napoli versus Frosinone, and what almost started as a horrible start to the season for Napoli ended up turning into a 3-1 win. Frosinone found themselves with a penalty in the 5th minute. Bad mistake by Napoli. Frosinone convert the penalty and go up 1-0 in the first 10 minutes. Then midway through the first half, Politano finds the back of the net to make it 1-1. And at the end of the first half, there was this play. Di Lorenzo beats his man down the line, shrugs off the defender, plays it across the middle to a wide open Osimhen, and he just drills it in the back of the net. Just some sloppy defending by Frosinone, as the defender was sitting about 7 yards off. And so it was easy for Osimhen to just attack that space, get the ball, and drill it right on target. Nothing the goalie can do there. In the second half, Osimhen got the ball behind the defense again and just slotted away, an easy finish for him for a brace. Napoli will go as far as Osimhen takes him this year. I think they're still going to compete for the Scudetto. It will be interesting to see if Rudy Garcia can keep them competing at the top this year. We also saw Verona take on Empoli on Friday, and Verona got a 1-0 win. This was a game of just missed chances, a lot of missed chances on both teams. The goal came from a sloppy goalie mistake by Empoli. Goalie tries to come out and get it, misses it, falls right to Bonazzoli, who finishes it. Defender got a head on it, kind of just headed it in the goal. Again, just a sloppy goal. I mean, to be honest, I mean, Empoli didn't look good without Vicario back there. I mean, losing their star keeper from last year, who went on to Spurs. It's not easy just to replace a goalie, and they saw it today with the only goal coming from a keeper mistake. And, you know, let's not sugarcoat it. It's week 1, but Verona and Empoli, this is a relegation battle. So, you know, right in week 1, you're playing a really important game for both teams, whether they're going to stay up or not this year. And Verona, who barely made it last year on a playoff game with Spezia, they come out with a 1-0 win and get the 3 points in week 1. So kudos to them. Fiorentina. New York's own Rocco Commisso's Fiorentina come out hot with a 4-1 win over newly promoted Genoa. What Fiorentina did here was amazing. They went into Genoa, newly promoted team, but electric atmosphere, great tifo. The Luigi Ferraris was packed. It was electric in there. And Fiorentina come in and just take it 4-1. 3 first half goals by La Viola. And they just looked good throughout the match. In the second half, there was a goal each, but the show was all Fiorentina, and they're one of my dark horse teams to push. I think they're going to push 6th. I think they were 8th last year, and because of Juventus getting banned from UEFA competitions, they basically got into the Conference League again after losing the final last year, and they got a solid squad. I mean, if they can hold on to Armabat, I think they're going to compete. They've made some great additions. They lost one of their forwards, but brought in Nzola. But I think overall, I think they're going to be a dark horse. Last year they started to show it a little bit, but this year I think Italiano is going to whip these guys into shape, and they're really going to push that seventh, sixth, who knows, maybe fifth spot. But I think they're going to be solid this year. As for Genoa, I mean, glad to see them back in Serie A. We really needed a team playing in that stadium in Serie A with Sampdoria getting relegated. Hopefully they come back next year. But for Genoa, great to see those fans back in Serie A. Again, electric atmosphere. Inter Milan won 2-0 against Monza with a Lautaro Martinez brace. And I thought they looked good. I mean, Monza's a pretty good squad. They started slow last year and then worked their way. I think they finished 11th, so right in mid-table. They're a decent squad. Inter really looked like Inter this past weekend. They played well, even though they had a lot of changes from last year. I was thinking that they might struggle a little bit this year, especially out of the gate when you lose your starting goalkeeper. You lose Skriniar, who wasn't as involved last year, but still an important part of that team. They lost Brozovic, who wasn't their best overall midfielder because he's not as good as Barella, but he was the glue within that midfield that allowed Barella to do what he does. And then, up top, you bring back Lautaro, but you lose Dzeko and Lukaku. So how are you going to replace all of that? Thought Thuram looked good. And I had my questions about Arnautovic coming back to Inter, but 1 week in and it looks pretty good. So Inter's going to be fighting for it this year. Atalanta started well with a 2-0 victory over Sassuolo. Debutant Ketelare scored the winning goal in the second half, and Atalanta added another one in injury time. Do not be surprised if Atalanta are in the top four come the end of the season. Do not be surprised if they are pushing for the Scudetto. They made a great deal by getting 70, 80 million from Højlund to go to Manchester United, and they turned that money into very good players for their offense. One thing that they need to do now is just add some depth defensively, but they've made some great moves. They've added some great players to a team that was already, fourth, fifth, sixth in Serie A. Now I think they can actually make a push to maybe even push that Scudetto. Belotti and Candreva finished in a 2-2 draw. Oops, I'm sorry. I mean, Salernitana and Roma finished in a 2-2 draw. Belotti brace, Candreva brace. Candreva's goals were magical. I mean, I was watching this game and throughout the whole weekend on Paramount Plus, they're filling in, halftime with the top 5 goals of last season. And there it is, Candreva's goal against Roma, the one where he flies through the air and flicks it into the 90. And then, watch this game, and there's that man, Candreva, scoring golazos against Roma again. Exciting game. There was a lot of action in this one. Salernitana are going to be a hard out this year, and with Candreva putting in performances like that, they could push, to be safe into the mid-table. Candreva's good for a couple of these performances a year, just alone through week 1. He's already gotten his team a point. There's going to be a couple weekends throughout the year where he's going to be directly responsible for another point, 3 points. So if you can get those performances out of Candreva throughout the season, they should be good on staying up. As for Roma, they really needed to start out with a win here on the opening weekend. A lot of new faces coming in, and they struggled defensively. I mean, on the first goal, Candreva had a play. The play was Candreva actually came all the way back to the back line to check to see the ball, got rid of it, sprinted up the field, and then got played through. and wide open, just one-on-one with Smalling. So Roma's got to clean up that defensively. Without Jose Mourinho on the sidelines, it was probably tough for him to keep everything close-knit defensively. And they just got to be better if they want to compete for that top 4 spot this year. The other Roman club, Lazio, lost 2-1 against Lecce. Lazio looked like they were in control in the first half. In the first half, they got their goal. They were cruising, but just let Lecce hang around. And in the second half, spectacular Almquist volley to tie it up at 1-1. And then in the 87th minute, Di Francesco sent the Stadio Via de Mare into pandemonium, and Lecce won 2-1. And this is a big deal for a team like Lazio, who finished top 4 last year, while not playing in Europe. They bowed out of the Conference League kind of early so they could focus on Serie A. And now in a game, you know, that you start off the year with against Lecce, that you should be getting 3 points, they don't get any. So when they start playing in the Champions League this year, they're going to be playing Tuesday, Wednesday, then again on Sunday, Saturday. They needed as much points as they could in this early part of the season to get ahead before European competitions start, and they lost 3 points today. Torino and Cagliari played out the weekend's only goalless draw. Nothing really in this game, a couple chances both ways. The only real positive from this game was seeing Claudio Ranieri back on Serie A sidelines, having one of the greatest coaches of all time, coaching in the greatest league of all time. Is great to see again. Glad to see him back on the touchlines. Milan started the season as you'd expect, with a 2-0 victory over Bologna. This game was really all Milan. Bologna had a couple chances, but I mean, the first 30 minutes were really dominated by Milan. They had a Giroud goal early, and then Pulisic rocket. I mean, you couldn't have wrote a better script for Milan to say, hey, you're going to get Pulisic, who's probably the biggest American star. You're going to have all these eyes on you from America now. And for him to just come out, be involved in the first goal, and then score a goal of his own within the first 30 minutes, that's exactly what Milan wanted. You couldn't have wrote that script better for them. And they are going to be another team that's going to be fighting in that top 4, fighting for the Scudetto between Juventus, Milan, Inter, Napoli. I think those are going to be your front 4 that are going to be fighting for that Scudetto. And last but not least, the Bianconeri won 3-0 against the Bianconeri. Juventus won 3-0 over Udinese, which was surprising because the game was in Udinese. I thought Udinese was going to put up a little bit more of a fight, but there was no fight at all. Game started with the opposite of Allegri ball, with Juventus just going and putting on a full press, winning the ball, and Chiesa just finishing it. Vlahovic gets a penalty in later in the first half. He converts it, and then right at the end of the first half, they added a third goal by Rabiot. The first half was just all Juventus. They coasted in the second half. Couple chances went either way, but it was all Juventus this game. Juventus is my pick this year to win Serie A, just on the basis of they'll be playing once a week. They kind of got, I don't know, you could say it's lucky that they kind of got kicked out of Europe, and the 1 year that they were going to be in Europe was going to be the Conference League, so they don't have to play in that. They might have done what like Spurs did a couple years ago and just not even play your top players at all, or done like what Lazio did and just kind of throw your backups in and just see how far they could have gotten with that, and still focus just on Serie A. But with them just being totally out of UEFA competition, they can just solely focus on Serie A every week. And I think that's going to be the difference. They'll keep their players fresh. If Chiesa and Vlahovic can stay healthy, that's a hell of a 1-2 punch. And, you know, they got good midfielders. They got good defenders. They got a good keeper. So I expect them to win Serie A. They'll be playing once a week. And then like I said before, Inter, Napoli, Milan in that second, third, and fourth spot. I think Roma, Atalanta are going to push those other three for those Champions League spots. And this might be one of the most interesting years of Serie A we've had over the past couple years. Really, the past 4 or 5 years, it's been a different winner every year. It's been great. While other leagues in Europe, like England and Germany, and similar in Spain, where there's really only two teams winning. Italy with having all these different winners, all these different years. I mean, we just had Napoli for the first time in 30 years. All these teams competing at the highest level to win the league is just going to make it one of the most exciting seasons we've had in Serie A. Plus, I feel like the mid-table teams have gotten stronger. Like I said, Fiorentina is going to be looking good. Atalanta is going to be looking really, really good. And then, we have some newly promoted sides as well that are going to push and make every game in Serie A hard. We saw that last year, especially at the end of the year, while there was 3 or 4 teams fighting for that last Champions League spot, fighting for those European spots. Last year, Inter, Milan, Roma, Atalanta, when they were playing in their games, nothing was predictable. 1 week, a couple of those teams will win matchups that you think they'd win, and then the next week you think they'd win that matchup again, and they wouldn't. So every week is going to be very competitive in Serie A this year. Thank you for following along. And if you like talking Serie A, give this page a like. Ciao, ciao.